Hi everyone, I'm Jed Shlackman. I work as a holistic counselor as well as a hypnotherapist and energy healer. For this video I'll be speaking about the topic of our locus of control. To what extent do we have internal versus external sense of that locus of control in our life? This can apply to many aspects of life, so it could include control over your state of well-being, physically, emotionally, socially, etc. If we think about our life experience, we can realize that as children, when we're very young, our locus of control is oriented in a way more toward the external, toward dependency on other people for both our physical needs and our emotional needs. As a child, you depend on your parents to provide food for you. They provide, a house for you to live in, all the material goods that you're using. Your parents are also giving you a lot of emotional feedback, so they're giving you praise or validation or lack thereof, and you're very sensitive to that as a child. You have a fairly strong need for that external feedback, for that validation or approval, for you to feel your own self-worth, your own security or contentment. Generally, as we grow older, as we mature and go through different stages in our life, we tend to develop more internal locus of control, where we're more able to manage our own emotional state, our own sense of security or well-being. That also includes our ability to take care of ourselves, to manage our own physical hygiene and our diet and exercise, all these different things that are part of self-care. Over time, we're ideally learning how to optimally take care of ourselves, to manage our own health. We also can, in a way, learn to trust in our own biology. So having an understanding that our body is designed to maintain its own balance or homeostasis, to generate what it needs to support its functioning. So we have different systems in our body that normally are working fine, supporting our health and well-being. We don't run to a doctor every day to get something to make our body work, as long as we're providing just some basic things, basic elements of life like air, food, water, then we're able to function. Our body has its own ability to maintain itself, to support well-being. So it's not really normal and not rational to think that you're going to have to always get some special extra external input, that you have to go to doctors for surgeries, for medications, for other operations of any kind to enable your body to function. It has its own innate intelligence, its own wisdom and information that it applies to maintain itself. So having that belief or understanding supports your internal locus of control, rather than getting caught up in a mindset of always seeking out some external source or input to try to get your body to function as it's actually inherently meant to be able to function. With our psychological well-being, As we mature, we tend to become, in a way, more independent of external validation. This doesn't mean that we're functioning completely isolated and independent of other people, that we don't benefit from having nurturing, supportive connections. What it means is that if at any point we're not receiving the optimal amount of input that we might like, if everyone around us isn't praising us and validating us, it won't have as strong unpleasant effect as it might have when we were younger, as a child, more dependent upon that feedback or that nurturing. So we're able to meet our own emotional needs more, to feel okay with ourselves, to not have to have so much external support or validation, to feel at ease with ourselves, to be content. So if you have more of that internal locus of control, you in a sense have more power over your own psychological state, how you're thinking about yourself, how you're feeling about your life, etc. So it gives you more resilience, where someone says something negative to you, you don't start to cry and withdraw. You're able to handle that, to maintain your own equilibrium, to not be so dependent on whether other people are giving you praise or criticism. So this idea of internal versus external locus of control, as you can see, applies in a variety of aspects of our life. Often there are people around us who may try to exploit our being overly dependent on external feedback or external influences. There are people who will tell you that you have to take their particular supplement or drug or some special class or program that they're offering in order to achieve some desired state or outcome that you're looking for in your life. In modern medicine, people are often given an impression that there's some inherent flaw or weakness in their being, and that they have to receive some type of medical treatment to compensate for that, that they're not going to be able to restore or recover a state of health on their own, or just using some free or inexpensive natural remedies or resources. So there's often some commercial interest in reinforcing in people a bias toward the external locus of control, where they don't believe in themselves, they don't have confidence in their own abilities, in their own capacity to support or maintain their state of well-being. In a broader sense, in terms of social and economic phenomena, we have these dynamics present there also, where people may feel very dependent on other people or other institutions for their financial well-being, for their ability to meet certain economic responsibilities or needs. So if you work at a job and you feel you depend on that particular job for your ability to keep a roof over your head or provide for your family, then whoever is that employer, they have power over you, and they could threaten you with firing you or lowering your salary or something if you don't comply with their demands in that workplace. So in that case, you have to look at that balance of internal versus external locus of control. Do you want other people or institutions or organizations to have a lot of financial power over you or social power over you? Or do you want to be kind of more the master of your own destiny in that regards? Do you want to be your own boss, your own employer in a sense, where you can decide what's best in your professional or career life versus having to meet the demands of someone else who might have different values, different beliefs, different priorities than you? We could look at governing institutions also and see if there's a bias there toward helping the citizens or public be more independent, more able to manage their own lives without external input or interference, versus having everyone, in a sense, more dependent on the input or interference of some central authority that in exchange can decide what that authority believes is best for the population. So there are different social systems and political systems that may lean more one way or the other in terms of this locus of control dynamic. Are people becoming more mature and responsible for themselves, or are they depending more on some parental type authority to step in and give them assistance or impose limits on them or discipline on them? If we think about this evolution from being a child to an adult, the typical evolutionary vector or direction is for an individual to be more able to manage their own life in terms of taking care of responsibilities, choosing their own behaviors in ways that are balanced in a sense, where they're not violating the rights of others, where they're able to consider both their own well-being and the well-being of the community when they're choosing their actions, so behaving responsibly. As an adult, you typically have more physical strength as well as more intellectual and emotional skills versus when you were younger as a child. So as you're developing those skills and resources, ideally you would need less external interference or influence to guide your life. You'd be more able to handle your own life. Of course, we can see in our society and people's lives situations where a person starts to become irresponsible, where they start to do things that are harmful to themselves or others, and society deems it vital to intervene there, to step in and provide those external control mechanisms to either protect the public or to protect that individual from themselves. So in those situations, when the person's internal ability to control or manage their life unravels, then the external will tend to step in to fill in that void or vacuum. So let's all look at these constructs in our own life and in our relationships in the world around us, and we could explore what we feel is healthy for ourselves, what things we can do to find a better balance or a better complementary mix, in a sense, of internal and external locus of control. It is possible to go too extreme in either direction. So there are people who try to be too much centered in themselves and in their idea of their own ability to manage and handle everything, where they actually push away some external support that might actually be beneficial or might actually be needed in their life. So it's not really healthy to go to that extreme. So you want to be aware of what's actually needed or supported, what's going to benefit you and the people around you, and ways in which you can continue to evolve, to mature, to be more responsible toward yourself and others, since we exist in communities and social relationships to one another. There's a certain amount of interdependence. What's going on in your life affects people around you and vice versa. I hope that this discussion has given each of you some insights or things to contemplate. For those that are interested in holistic health and a more whole and balanced view of how we can care for ourselves and nurture our well-being, I have additional resources on my website. The site is phinsights.com. That's spelled PHINSIGHTS.com. For now, I want to wish everyone a wonderful day. Namaste.